Good evening, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to see so many people here today. My name is Dr. Miller, and for those of you who may not know me, I've spent more than 40 years practicing medicine studying metabolism, aging, and the quiet biological processes that determine whether we grow older with strength or whether we age faster than our bodies were ever meant to. Now, before we begin, let me ask you something very simple. How many of you woke up this morning and followed what you would consider a normal morning routine? Maybe you grabbed your phone. Maybe you went straight for coffee. Maybe you skipped breakfast. Maybe you rushed out the door. Maybe you sat down in the car, drove to work, and didn't really move your body until late in the day. Just raise your hand if any of that sounds familiar. Yes, look around the room. Almost everyone. And here is the astonishing part. Many of the things people do in the first 60 minutes after waking up are quietly accelerating the aging process inside their body. Not dramatically, not instantly, but slowly, relentlessly, day after day. And tonight, I want to show you exactly how that happens. But first, let me tell you about a patient of mine. About 12 years ago, a gentleman named Robert walked into my clinic. Robert was 52 years old. On paper, he looked like a fairly typical patient. Slightly overweight, some fatigue, mild high blood pressure, early signs of insulin resistance. Nothing shocking. But when I looked deeper into his lab, something didn't make sense. His biological markers of aging, inflammation, mitochondrial decline, metabolic flexibility, looked more like those of a 70-year-old man. 70, yet Robert exercised. He didn't smoke, he wasn't drinking heavily. His diet wasn't terrible. So I sat down with him and said, "Robert, walk me through your mornings." And what he told me changed the direction of my clinical research for the next decade. Every morning he did 5 things, 5 very normal things, things millions of people are doing right now as we speak. And those 5 habits were quietly pushing his metabolism toward inflammation, hormonal disruption, and accelerated cellular aging. When we changed those habits, just those mornings, within 3 months his inflammation markers dropped by 40%. Within 6 months his metabolic age improved dramatically, and within a year his biological profile looked closer to that of a healthy 40-year-old man. Not because we used exotic treatments, not because we used expensive supplements, because we fixed the first hour of his day. And that is what I want to talk about tonight. Tonight you're going to learn about 5 morning habits that are secretly aging you faster. But more importantly, you're going to understand why they do that. Because once you understand the biology, once you understand what your cells are actually doing in those early hours, you will never look at your morning routine the same way again. Now I want to pause here for a moment because this is critical. Your body does not experience time the way your calendar does. Your body experiences time through biological signals, hormones, light, movement, food, stress. These signals tell your cells what kind of day they are entering. And the most powerful signals of all happen in the morning. You see, the first 1 to 2 hours after waking up are what we call a metabolic programming window. During that window, your brain is resetting hormonal rhythms that affect the next 12 to 16 hours. If those signals are healthy, your body shifts into repair mode, fat burning mode, mental clarity mode. If those signals are wrong, the opposite happens. Inflammation rises, insulin resistance begins creeping upward, cortisol becomes chaotic. Your mitochondria, the little power plants inside every cell, start producing energy less efficiently, and slowly, quietly, your biological age begins drifting further ahead of your chronological age. Now let me explain this using an image that I often share with my patients. Imagine your body as a massive city. Inside that city are trillions of workers. Those workers are your cells. Each morning, the city wakes up. Lights turn on. Trucks begin delivering fuel. Power stations start generating electricity. Waste removal systems begin clearing out toxins from the previous day. If everything is timed correctly, the city runs beautifully. But if the signals are chaotic, if deliveries come at the wrong time, if power stations activate too early or too late, the entire system becomes inefficient. Traffic jams appear, waste piles up, energy production drops, and slowly the infrastructure of the city begins to deteriorate. That, in biological terms, is aging. Now here is what most people don't realize. The first signals that organize the entire city each day happen within minutes of waking up. And many modern habits are sending completely confusing instructions to the body. Let me give you an example that might surprise you. The very first habit that accelerates aging for many people happens before they even get out of bed. And that habit is reaching for your phone. Now, some of you may be smiling right now because you know exactly what I'm talking about. The alarm goes off. Your hand reaches for the phone, and before your brain is even fully awake, You're reading emails, scrolling social media, or looking at news headlines. It seems harmless, but physiologically, something very interesting is happening. The moment your eyes see bright artificial light from that screen, your brain receives a signal through the retina. That signal travels to a tiny region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This structure is essentially your master biological clock. It controls circadian rhythms, the timing of hormone release throughout the day. Now, in a natural environment, the first light your eyes would encounter is soft morning sunlight. That gentle sunrise slowly tells your brain, wake up, begin releasing cortisol, in a controlled rhythm, prepare the metabolism for activity. But phone screens blast your eyes with intense blue light instantly, and that abrupt signal disrupts the natural curve of cortisol release. Now, cortisol is often misunderstood. People call it the stress hormone, but that's not entirely accurate. Cortisol is actually your morning activation hormone. It should rise naturally after waking. It helps mobilize glucose. It sharpens your attention. It prepares your immune system for the day. But when cortisol spikes too quickly or too early, it triggers a cascade of metabolic consequences. Blood sugar rises abruptly. Insulin follows. Inflammatory pathways activate. And over time, this pattern contributes to metabolic aging. Let me say that again because I want it to land. A simple habit like checking your phone immediately after waking can shift hormonal rhythms in ways that push your body toward faster aging. Now, is that the only factor? Of course not. But these signals accumulate day after day, year after year. And when we examine long-term metabolic health, these small signals matter enormously. Now let's move into another habit that millions of people perform every morning: coffee before water. Now please understand something. I am not anti-coffee. In fact, coffee contains compounds that can support metabolic health when used properly. But timing matters. When you wake up in the morning, your body is mildly dehydrated. You've gone 6 to 8 hours without fluid intake. During sleep, your ENS waste clearance system, what we call the glymphatic system, has been actively flushing metabolic byproducts out of neural tissue. That waste needs to be cleared through circulation and hydration. But when coffee is the first thing that enters the system, caffeine stimulates the adrenal glands and pushes cortisol even higher before hydration has occurred. And when cortisol rises in a dehydrated state, blood viscosity increases slightly. That makes circulation less efficient. It's subtle, but over years, this pattern contributes to vascular stress and mitochondrial strain. And again, this is where the city metaphor becomes useful. Imagine trying to start the entire city's power grid before water has even begun flowing through the pipes. The machinery overheats. Efficiency drops. That's essentially what happens metabolically. Now I want to pause and ask the audience something. How many of you drink coffee within 10 minutes of waking up? Yes, quite a few hands. And again, this is not about blame. This is about awareness. Because once you know what your biology expects in those first minutes of the day, small adjustments can dramatically change the trajectory of your health. Now there's a third habit that is perhaps even more powerful than the first two combined, and that habit is not moving your body in the morning. Now I know many people say, Dr. Miller, I'm not a morning exerciser, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not talking about intense workouts. I'm talking about movement signals. I'm talking about movement signals. Your muscles are not just mechanical structures. They are endocrine organs. They release signaling molecules called myokines when they contract. These molecules communicate with the liver, the brain, and the immune system. Morning movement tells the body, energy demand is beginning. This improves insulin sensitivity throughout the day. But when the body transitions from sleep to immediate stillness, sitting, driving, staring at a screen, metabolism remains sluggish. Glucose regulation becomes less efficient. Fat oxidation declines. And the body slowly becomes metabolically inflexible. This is one of the quiet pathways through which aging accelerates. Now let me take you deeper into the science of this, because the real story happening inside your cells during the morning hours is extraordinary. And this is where things become truly fascinating. During sleep, your body has been performing repair processes. Damaged proteins are broken down. DNA repair mechanisms activate. Your brain clears metabolic debris. But those repair processes must transition smoothly into daytime metabolism. If that transition is chaotic, due to poor light exposure, stress signals, dehydration, or metabolic disruption, those repair systems shut down prematurely, and when repair shuts down early, damage accumulates. That accumulation of cellular damage is the biological definition of aging. Now here is the remarkable thing. When we correct the signals that occur in the first hour of the day, many of these repair systems remain active longer. Inflammation decreases, mitochondrial efficiency improves, Hormonal rhythms stabilize. This is why the morning window is so powerful. It is a biological reset point, and most people are unknowingly sabotaging it. Now let's go even deeper into the physiology of what is happening during those early morning hours. Because this is the part most doctors never explain. When you wake up, your brain initiates something called the cortisol awakening response. This is a carefully timed hormonal rise that occurs within the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. In a healthy system, cortisol increases gradually, reaching a peak that prepares the body for daytime activity, but modern behaviors often distort this rhythm. Artificial light, tea exposure, immediate stress from emails or news, caffeine too early, skipping hydration, lack of movement. Each of these signals pushes cortisol upward in a jagged, chaotic pattern. And when cortisol becomes chaotic, it interferes with another hormone that many people don't associate with aging: insulin. Now, insulin is not just a blood sugar hormone, it is a growth signal. When insulin remains elevated too frequently, cells receive the message to store energy rather than repair themselves. And this is where one of the most fascinating biological processes comes into play. A process known as autophagy. Autophagy literally means self-eating. It is one of the most powerful anti-aging mechanisms the human body possesses. Inside every cell, damaged components are constantly being broken down and recycled. Think of it as the body's internal recycling and repair department. But autophagy is extremely sensitive to metabolic signals. High insulin shuts it down. Chronic stress disrupts it. Poor circadian rhythms suppress it. And many of the habits people perform in the morning unintentionally send signals that turn off autophagy earlier than necessary. That means cellular debris accumulates faster. And again, this is the infrastructure of aging. Now I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that inside every cell of your body is a tiny cleaning crew. All night long they've been working, repairing machinery, recycling broken components, clearing waste. But the moment the morning signals arrive, the cleaning crew receives a message. If the signals are healthy, they continue their work. If the signals are chaotic, they stop immediately and the factory switches to production mode. Now imagine that happening trillions of times across the body every single morning. This is why the morning routine is not just about productivity, it is about cellular maintenance. And once people understand that, the entire conversation about aging begins to change. Now we're going to move into something that most doctors rarely talk about in public lectures. Because this is where the story becomes truly astonishing. There is a specific biological turning point that occurs in the morning, a moment when the body decides whether it will prioritize repair or rapid aging. And once you understand what that moment is and how your habits influence it, you will realize just how powerful your mornings truly are.